When putting together a video for my Fujitsu retro gaming laptop, I made the mistake of updating the Batocera software to version 39. This is not to say that I blame the developers or anything. I think that they wouldn't expect that that version would be run on such old hardware, and it would be unreasonable to expect that every piece of new software would be compatible with all older hardware. This video is complementary to the other video I made with my Fujitsu Batocera gaming rig. And to be fair, I am able to get through that video pretty well and play a few games smoothly as well. This video is more of different things I struggled with, some of which is my fault. When I was booting up version 39, I could see the boot screen, but after that, the screen would just be blank and wouldn't load anything. Unrelated to Batocera, I had also planned on using a wireless lavalier microphone as well, so that I can stand and record sound without having to be near my desk.
It just sounds pretty terrible.
So I ended up needing to change the structure of the video. This is probably my fault. I bought it from Amazon and it had a good rating, and I know I shouldn't blindly trust ratings on Amazon, but I didn't feel like taking the time to do research, so I just bought them. To fix the Batocera issue, I figured it was probably an issue with the updater, so I thought that if I re-imaged the hard drive that it would work fine. So I unscrewed the bottom cover and inserted the hard drive in my laptop, and I re-imaged version 39 to the drive. After slipping the hard drive back in, I turned it back on. The same thing happens where I see the boot logo, but then the screen turns back off. I was suggested to unplug and replug the VGA cable, but that did not change anything. Several people had suggested that I use version 29 due to my older hardware, so I re-imaged the drive and this time tried to boot to my X230, since I thought that maybe I would need to change the settings in Batocera to output to the external monitor. I wasn't able to boot Batocera to this computer because I couldn't figure out how to get to the BIOS before it boots into Windows. Normally, I can just hold the Think Vantage button or hit F12 to boot into a temporary drive. But that for some reason didn't work. I'm pretty sure this is something that I'm doing wrong and not related to the Batocera image. I brought out my Dell E6220 since I knew I could access the drive bay pretty easily, but that ended up not working out because the hard drive was slightly too thick to allow the connector to attach. I brought out my X201, but that wouldn't work because the rubber bits are not formed for a thicker hard drive, and are instead made for thinner hard drives. I brought out my HP Envy, and that booted up fine, but I realized that it does not have a VGA port, so I can't set the default output to VGA in the settings of Batocera. Finally, I brought out my Dell E6410, and I was able to get Batocera booted and changed the settings to default to outputting the VGA port. Now, I was finally able to boot version 29 to my Fujitsu laptop. Sure, I could have just used the Dell for the rest of the video, but I specifically designated the Fujitsu to be the retro gaming console. And besides, retro gaming would be too silly and playful for a serious business machine like this Dell. While version 29 ran quite well on this Fujitsu, I had a few issues. One issue was that I was not able to get the controller recognized. The light wouldn't even turn on. I was able to plug in a wired computer mouse, and that turned on, but for some reason there was nothing from the controller. Another issue is that while I was able to connect to the internet, both over Wi-Fi and Ethernet, I was not able to download any extra games. It would just give me an error. I was able to play some pre-downloaded games quite well with a keyboard, but it was kind of a bummer that I couldn't get other games on it. I decided that it might be worth trying version 39 again, because I realized that I had never run it on a different computer and changed the settings to VGA output. I went to the updater in version 29, however, it gave me an error saying that the drive was full. This is weird since I thought that 120 gigabytes of storage was plenty of space for this operating system. So I grabbed a 320 gigabyte hard drive and installed version 39 on that. Then I brought out my Frankenpad since the motherboard inside is from around the same year as the Fujitsu, and the hard drive is pretty easy to change on it. I was able to get version 39 loaded and set the default video output to VGA. Then I tried it on the Fujitsu. Unfortunately, it was still unable to boot to the OS, so I assume there must be some graphics compatibility issue. I decided now that I would try version 37 of Batocera, because I saw that that version was the version that I had originally downloaded several months ago. So I re-imaged the hard drive in the classic ThinkPad and set the default VGA output on the other more classic ThinkPad, then transferred the drive over to the Fujitsu. Finally, it was working smoothly, and both controller input and downloading of other games worked well. Overall, I like Batocera, but sometimes there are some difficulties in using it compared to other consoles. But it is a free software, so as for something that's free, I think it's worth paying some time to get it working right. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good day.